Today we are on to chapter 6 in inquiry and innovation in the classroom, and it is 20% time for secondary students, which I said in my last video I knew I was going to have to be kind of open-minded about because I don't, the building that we're in is Mid-Lakes Elementary School, but sixth graders I'm going to try and use the 20% project with them. I would also consider secondary students if they were at like a different school. So I tried to go into this one with like an open mind and with take some ideas from here and just be receptive to what the chapter had to offer. So the opening vignette is about A.J. Giuliani's time in high school, in which he formed a band, and he in the upper years of high school he noticed that there was a divide between the band members of the group, and some he believed were, himself included, were passionate about being in the band, but for a few of the members their band was their purpose. And he went on to explain what the difference between passion and purpose is. So passion is kind of like you are super excited to do something. You love doing something. It brings you joy to do that thing. And later in the book, it quotes like Oprah defines passion as energy, whereas purpose is why do you get up in the morning. So in the instance of the band, he loved making music and writing lyrics, but he never intended to go into a music-related field, whereas two of the band members, their purpose was music, and they both ended up in the music industry, which I think that's incredible. So in the difference between purpose and passion, he says, I do think that passion is a place to start because it does lead to purpose. And later on it says, interesting, none of our journeys started in school. We used our free time to really find out what we were passionate about and to build a purpose into our learning and activities. And that part I found really interesting because I think, so there was a kid, so bad at stories. There was a kid who I graduated with in 2008, and he and I both have careers in music, but I think that I am more of the first camp. I think that passion is a place to start because it leads to purpose. I loved music when I was growing up. I did band from 4th grade. I did chorus from 5th grade. I was a music major in college. I did band and chorus for as long as I could. I sing in a chorus now. And I think for me, kind of because my mom was a teacher, I'm like, oh, I'll be a music teacher. And I do think that music kind of led me to my purpose, which is teaching kids and helping kids. And I really like it. I say that my job at Mid-Lakes is my dream job regularly. Whereas this kid I graduated with, his name is Ryan Quinn, and I don't really expect you to know his name, but he, my senior year, he won the talent show because he played piano and he sang Leonard Cohen's Hallelujah. But here's the thing, almost nobody knew that he could sing or play piano. I certainly didn't. And our chorus teacher in 12th grade, she's like, Ryan, why aren't you in chorus? Like, she was so mad at him for not participating in like the school music activities, but his passion for music was largely pursued outside of school. And he ended up being, a couple seasons ago, he was on that TV show, The Voice, and he got, I think he was like in the top 24, but he might have gotten cut after that, so he didn't get super far, but he like was on TV and moved from Westmoreland, New York to LA to pursue this career in music. And what he's done since then, he's been on tour with a group called Postmodern Jukebox, where they sing popular songs, but in like an old style. And he's so fantastic. Like, look him up, Ryan Quinn. He's incredible. So all that to say is there's more than one way to do something. There's more than one way to turn your passion into a purpose, I think. with that anecdotal bit. So yes, the next part, A.G. Giuliani gives a chart about the stages of inquiry and purpose. And the 4 parts of the inquiry process are to pose real questions, find resources, interpret information, and report findings. And he argues that the 5th step in the inquiry process is creation. And an important part of the 20% project is when students ask the first question, they pose it with understanding that it will lead to some type of finished product, which is hopefully what I will be able to get my students to do or to figure out. I absolutely loved the story that he used to illustrate this purpose. That one student's question to herself was, how do I learn sign language? And she was passionate about it, but the purpose was so that she could communicate with her younger cousin who was deaf. Weeping. Oh my gosh. And I think maybe that also interprets like the difference between like passion and purpose. Like you would have seen that girl present her findings, and you would have been like, you would have been crying. Oh my gosh. So yeah. So the next page talks about how students can have trouble finding their interests, and that students must fail often and learn from these failures and apply these lessons to their work. So I have in the sidebar, like, so students are successful, feel their work has a purpose, and I may have to rethink my idea of the 20% project, because I know music isn't everybody's cup of tea, but I think in order to connect it to, like, the music curriculum and to the music special in general, I think I kind of have to include, like, a musical element to it, which is why I'm trying to be so open-minded about what constitutes as, like, a music project. So we'll have to see. I can't be like, he talks later in here like, oh, I'm an English teacher, and when I presented this idea to parents and administrators, I could connect it to like reading nonfiction because students had to read a lot of nonfiction in order to do these projects. I think I'm going to have to keep that music element in. And that second sentence, students must fail often, learn from those failures, and apply those lessons to their work. I wrote off to the side, lesson in failing, ? Because I think that a lot of students don't know how to fail. And I mean, I was like that when I was a kid, and I'm still like that right now. I feel like me failing something occasionally, or like me when a lesson doesn't work, or like when I got passed up in a job interview and somebody else got the job instead of me. I find it really hard not to internalize that failure, even though it is a learning experience. And like, all right, I didn't get this job. What knowledge can I use to go to the next job interview? But that's so hard to do. Like, I remember after the first time I didn't get an interview, just like sobbing to my husband, and I'm like, I feel like a terrible teacher. Like, why don't they want me? What's wrong with me? And that's so hard. So especially with the kids who I think their self-worth might be tied into their success in school and sports and music and extracurriculars and everything. I think I'm really going to have to emphasize in this project, like, I don't expect you to have this I don't expect you to reinvent Gmail. Like, I don't expect but I think that's going to be really hard for some students. It'll be hard for me too. So it'll be a good lesson in failing, I think, but I don't know. I guess we'll see. I'm just going to have to strategize ways to like cushion the blow, like by emphasizing like the final product is not going to be reflected in your grade. Like this, like, and maybe reframing it as this is an opportunity to pursue something that you want to pursue. And then I can tell them like, hey, you can also do this outside of the music room. So the next section, Giuliani talks about the building blocks of 20% time in the classroom, and he shows this pyramid of success, which I love, and you can see to the side it says first day of school ? This, not only is this a pyramid of success, this is what I want to have in my classroom. Like, I want all of my classes to work as a team, and everyone I have in the sidebar, everyone supports each other, using course or sixth grade to promote teamwork. I want to promote like teamwork and good attitudes and building each other up instead of tearing each other down. And I don't remember if I've mentioned this in a prior video, but I was taking a walk this past weekend in Fairport, and I saw somebody had painted on the side of a wall. I'm going to use it this year. It's I think it was like, let's help each other take root and watch each other grow, or like, it was something like that. And I think that would be I like that with the third graders. But like this, like, come on, like, industriousness, friendship, loyalty, cooperation, enthusiasm. Like, that's the base level of the pyramid. Like, that's all of the, and then, like, okay, so you need to build that foundation, and then self-control, alertness, initiative, and intentness. And then it goes up from there. And he shares a story about when he was talking to a team captain about this pyramid of success, and he said, how are we going to get everybody to build up to the same skill, even though some of these guys are new and haven't played on this lacrosse team before? And he responds with, that's not the point. The point is for everybody to grow, and then the combined effort of the team is stronger than it was before. Like, I just love that. And I'm listening to a really great book right now. It's called Dear Sugar, and it's Cheryl Strayed, the author of Wild. She, I don't know if she still does, but she wrote an advice column called Dear Sugar, and it's like lessons in life and love. And one of the stories that she tells is, or one of the questions that gets written in is like, Dear Sugar, I'm an aspiring writer, and I get insanely jealous of my friend's success, even as I'm trying to be supportive of them. I'm jealous of my friend's success. And one of the pieces of advice that Cheryl Strayed gives this reader is, the success of others has no bearing on what you're able to do. So you are not the only one who's allowed to do well. And I think that's with me in the job interviews. Like, somebody's going to get the job. And the fact that somebody else was successful doesn't mean that I was necessarily a failure. Like, that's just completely mind-blowing. And with this pyramid of success, like, if everybody gets better, then the group gets better. It doesn't really matter by what percentage they get better necessarily. Like, if you want everybody to get 100% and somebody's at 50 and somebody's at 10, like, you can't really get them both to 100, but maybe you get the kid who's at 50% at like 75 and the kid who's at 10% at like 35, like, you've done a pretty good job. Wow, which is just so different than like what school is, because like at school I feel like you have to teach to a certain set of standards, and like it's so important to get everybody to the same level, but of course that's impossible. Like, and that's something that's been bothering me since I started studying to be a teacher, that it's impossible to get all kids at the same level. But then he brings in this inquiry-based learning, and like, I love it because it really and truly is meeting students where they are and giving them the opportunity to show what they've got. which he then follows up, like, we may expect more from a straight A student than we do from an average C student, but not only is it thinking completely backwards, it misses the point. Inquiry-based learning is about providing time for students to grow as learners, individuals, and creators. They may not be a straight A student, but their inquiry project will blow you away. I can't wait to see that. And I love when I see glimpses of that in the classroom anyways, like when the kid with the IEP also has the best sense of humor in the class, who cracks me up all the time and makes like really interesting comments. I love it. Oh my gosh, I see my time and I am apparently getting very fired up about this idea. So I'll try not to be so verbose, but I feel like those tangents were pretty important to address. So next he talks about the 6 building blocks for inquiry-based success, which are passion and purpose, which I've already talked about, ownership or autonomy, sharing, creating and making, and reflection. I believe I've already talked a bit about reflection in a previous video. So a bit about ownership. Giuliani writes that I'd much rather focus my students' attention on owning their project, because the type of freedom to pursue an independent project can be misconstrued as a path to doing nothing. And I appreciate that distinction that he makes. Like, if you emphasize, like, hey, it says here, it's their work, their time, their failures, their successes, and their growth. So giving students that intrinsic motivation. Because I could definitely see it being a problem that, like, a student takes advantage of those classes and just does nothing. Although it does say later in the book that if somebody doesn't feel passionate, pair them up with another student, because the excitement is contagious. And the second is sharing. The second one I want to touch on is sharing. So I highly recommend students blogging about their experience and failings. This takes ownership to the next level because it is sharing progress, failures, and successes with the larger community. To which I wrote next to it, probably a school tool, because even though kids, I understand the importance of kids making like a digital portfolio starting pretty young, so they're like Googleable and hireable, and people know who they are. I personally don't feel comfortable in asking kids to do that, especially when they're 12. Like, if they were in high school, like junior or senior, I would totally feel good about that, because then like colleges would be looking at them and saying, ooh, I really want this student. They pursued something that was really interesting, and they made something cool out of it. So I don't really know if that's... I feel like blogging on School Tool might be good, or maybe there's another resource on the tablets where I can have kids like journal about it, or maybe have them keep a notebook or something. But I'm going to have to, that'll be an obstacle that I'll have to figure it out. Oh yeah, sorry, I need to comment for a second on creating and making. Students often want to make a product that is beyond their current abilities. Let them try. They'll learn from failures and do amazing work when their back is against the wall. I just wrote down, I love this. I love it so much. Like, it's a gentle, I think it's a gentle lesson in failure. So then he talks about the things you need to do before the project are connected to the curriculum, which is not something I'm terribly worried about. Learn from the community. So, excuse me. Sorry. So learn from the community. Before I made this video, I did a quick Google search, and the terms that I used were 20% Project Elementary Music and Genius Hour Elementary Music, and nothing came up. So I don't know that many music teachers have done this with their classes and blogged about it. So after I get off of this and later today, I will do some Googling about if any other specialist teachers have done this, so like Library Art or Phys Ed. And if not, maybe just go, maybe see if any high school music teachers have done this. And if not, then let's look at the elementary school projects, because, I don't know, I might be the first. I might have to start a blog. I don't know. We'll have to see. That actually might be really good as I create what exactly this project is going to look like. So then it says structure your time and get your pitch ready. So tell the students what they're doing and why they're doing it. So the last second to last. So during the project, he talks about strategies to help students find what they're passionate about, which, I mean, I think are really going to throw some of the kids for a loop. Like, what do you do during your free time? What do you do when you're supposed to be doing something else? Which is hysterical because, like, me in 6th grade, during the math lesson, I would have the book underneath the table I'd be reading. I got called out on that. The types of information that you read and watch. Love the March Madness bracket. They give yourself a trial period for your like top choices and top passions. I don't know if I'll be able to achieve this in 6 classes. What I might have to do is I might have to give this to students starting in the spring and just have them generate ideas ahead of time. So that is something that I will have to take into consideration. And then the final product and presentation, the presenting, he likes kids to present, and on the sidebar I wrote presenting gives kids ownership of their project. And I had a little bit of an epiphany, which was, I was originally planning on like 6 full classes for this project, but I said, wait, maybe this can be a 10 lesson endeavor, like after April break. Because April break to the end of the school year is, I did the math, and it ends up being just under 60 days, or between 50 and 60 days, which gives the kids about 9 or 10, whoa. Wow. Okay, sorry. It's Tuesday it's Thursday, August 8th, so we're getting a little storm, I guess. Sorry. So after April break, it's kind of like that big race until, not race, but like it's that chunk till the end of the year. So it makes sense to like end a unit before April break and then start this up after April break. So I'm like, oh, maybe I can dedicate like, maybe we can dedicate like 8 or 9 classes to this instead, which would give the kids a little bit more time. So it would be more like the 33% project instead of 20%. But I feel comfortable doing that with these kids because this will be my 3rd consecutive year having them, and in those 3 years, it has just been me telling them like what they should do, and I've tried to allow them creative opportunities, but they were still creative opportunities that like I came up with. So 20% time is I think giving them 10 music classes out of the 90 that they'll have with me by the end of their 6th grade year, I think that's probably fine. So the next chapter is 20% time for teachers, which I don't know if that's going to be like teachers should pursue their own projects or teachers preparing for students 20% projects. So I am interested in what this next chapter has to say. You might see the giraffe shirt again, might do another double header. In the meantime, apparently stay dry.